I've got the recording on, and we have Andreas with us here. We're so privileged and honored to have you, Andreas. We're thankful for your time, and especially we're thankful for your knowledge. So take it away.
Oh, well, thank you guys for being here again, back to back. So as promised, today we're going to look into something called Recon or reconnaissance. Anybody know what that means? Oh, well, we got a hand quickly from Adam Walton. I'm going by the names that are on your computer, so if that's not your real name. Like Oliver, I know your name is not Slades, though you'd like to trick us. So Adam Walton, talk to me. What is reconnaissance?
We can't hear you, hon. Turn your microphone. Still can't hear you, bud. Is your microphone turned on? Down at the very bottom, does it say mute?
Interpretive dance.
Does it say mute at the very bottom left? Well, while we're waiting for him to figure that out, let's see if Bradley has an idea. Bradley, what's reconnaissance? What does it sound like to you?
I'm not quite for sure, but I think it's like when you go back and like try to rescue something or something like that. I have no idea.
No, that's okay. It's all right. It's a word. It doesn't matter. Isaac, got a hand over there. Recon.
Isaac Riggs?
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure it means like just thinking or something like that.
Well, no worries. Let's say it's break it down like this. This, if you've ever seen a movie and someone saying, hey, like we're gonna scout around, we're gonna do some recon. Scouting is when, right, someone goes off and sort of explores everything ahead in advance. And part of it is definitely researching. So thank you, Joshua McKay, for your the typing in, right? But a lot of it is making very boiled down, right? Very simply put, it is the prep work, the stuff that you're going in to do to scout around, right? What are you going to learn? What knowledge can you gain from a place before you go in, with the big team, right? With the entire group. And that can be especially important. Why do you think that is? So let's pretend, who are we going to pick on today? I just saw Emilia Monzon. I just saw you pop up on my screen. So I got a question for you. Let's say you were in charge of taking a team of 50 people to Antarctica, and you've never been there before, and you don't know anything about it. What would you do first?
Make sure people don't die.
Excellent answer. Everyone, making sure your team does not die is an excellent answer. In fact, that is such an important answer that, where did this book go? Nope, that's not the book. Oh my gosh, I had the book, but it's gone now. I have this book called Death at Yellowstone that my national park friends made me read in light of getting prepared for, sorry, I'm still looking for it. I had it somewhere here. That's so terrible. The second I'm looking at it's what I need, it doesn't matter. Here's another book, but that's not the Death at Yellowstone one. It's okay. Making sure your team doesn't die is super important. So let's go back in time and let's pretend that we're in the age of exploration, or you're one of the early, English explorers going through the African jungles, or part of Francisco de Llena's expedition as they're going down the Amazon, or even, Ponce León or De Soto in the United States. What happens when you face something that is a scary book title, Isaac? And you're absolutely right. And I'm bummed that I can't find it because it's actually a really important book, the Death at Yellowstone book. It basically talks about all of the different dangers you need to look at, and if you're going to be doing, work at Yellowstone. So Some of the hazards include falling into geothermal waters, include bears, include lightning strikes, include, things of that nature, right? And so the important thing about reconnaissance, please give the chats.
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to read everything. So the idea here is, what can we know ahead of time? Have you guys ever heard the phrase, failing to plan is like planning to fail? Mm-hmm. All right, well, you have now if you haven't, but definitely failing to plan is like planning to fail. And imagine if I showed up today and said, actually, oh, sorry, I'm going to stop my video because I didn't prepare anything and, that's it. There's nothing to show. You're not going to get much out of it, right? Oh, check that out. Somebody's jumping upstairs. Well, when you're planning an expedition, and we're doing this right now, one of the very, very, very first things that you should do is look at what? Do you guys have your field books? I want to see them. Where are they? I got my USA field book right here. All right. So we've got our field books. And in most of my field books, actually, especially my fair part ones, which are the nice ones over here, even before and look, it's geology themed, isn't that fun? So even before I go out into the field, I always do this. So we'll start with, we've got to find a field season heading page. So even before going out into the field, oh my goodness, just what I'm looking for. So there we go. Boom. So if you can't read it, it says field season 2. It shows the dates right underneath it because I'm saying this is the field season. This is the name of the project. These are the dates. This is where it is. That's the heading I generally start out with. This is the notes, pre-field notes. Pre-field notes. But it's in the first part of your book because with that, you're going to set the scene for the rest of it. So in your notebook, right, you're writing down, okay, Yellowstone Interconnectedness Camp, the dates, in this case, the 8th of June, 2022, and Yellowstone National Park. The first question that is generally asked, because a lot of times, remember, you're writing this for the person who's going to be reading it 100 years from now. The first question is, what is the mission? What are you going to be doing at Yellowstone? Oh, we got a hand from Grattan? Mayfield? Grattan. What's the mission for Yellowstone this year?
This year is, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfectly. Oh, I can hear your cat.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't glowing green on mine. Okay, so our main mission is to not only document Yellowstone and try and research it, we also need to be learning how to be an explorer and take notes.
Exactly. So you're making observations, you're taking notes.
Yeah.
I think, Joshua, did you want to add something to that?
I think more specifically, we're learning about how to use a field journal, and like Grattan said, like taking notes.
Exactly. So
documenting stuff.
You're documenting, you're taking notes. That's a bigger picture. So, I mean, if we had, I'm going to take this page, right? This is just a spare notebook I have. And let's get a thick marker here so that everyone can see what I'm writing. So, if we start off with right behind Miss Barton, we see 5 silos, right? We see the bugs, right? Entomology. We see the microbes with Rosa. There's the botany. There's the geothermal side. And I forget what that other.
Entomology? No, water pollution.
Oh, yeah, water. That's right. The water quality.
Water quality.
So you've got 5 silos. So a lot of times in these books, you're going to want to put, you know what? I might even be able to show you a real one of these that we did for the field team. This is going to be totally online, right?
Yes.
Because I can't show this part. Can we turn off the online just so I can show
I'll turn
the
off
class something?
We got it.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So we'll finish this up real quick. Thank you for the note. Expedition Leave Your Barton. And
Not quick. We
so-
want to spend a lot of time on this part.
Exactly. No. So with this part, that is something I'm going to turn off. So this is Google Earth. This is available for free to anyone online. An amazingly powerful tool that lets you really go in. And we saw this a little bit last time. Go in anywhere on the planet and map things out. One of the most important things that you can do when you are going into an unknown place, get a map. Obviously, I'm going to try to talk fast because we went a little bit too much into other details. But for example, one thing that I like to use a lot is something called toponyms. So here's a book on toponyms in Nicaragua, for example, which are a lot of the indigenous place names and what they mean. In my case, for example, let's say we are looking for a warm river or a thermal river, and we happen to be in the Rexburg area. Just by looking around here and zooming in, and you know this, around here, there is not loading, but there should be a town called Warm River the second that this loads. It's somewhere in here, right?
Right.
So one thing when you're looking at these maps as well, looking at the place names tell you a lot. Mapping a path, like one of the fun things that you can do even at the level of your school. So let's zoom into Rexburg. Let's say you're going to go on a traverse across the city, or you want to follow the river starting anywhere, or you want to go to these crop circles and make measurements. Let's say you're going to do a study in each one of these crop circles and look at what insects, let's say, right, are going to be available here. And you want to do, science is all in the metric system. So you want to do, for example, how many square meters. So you're looking at a radius of 250 meters. That's your area right there in square meters. We can change that to square kilometers if that makes it easier for you. And then that way you start mapping out what you're going to do so that you can know exactly what you're going to do, where you're going to do it. And one of the fun things about the internet, especially, I've never been to Rexburg. I've flown over it. I've seen Rexburg from the air. But let's say I wanted to scope out what your everyday was. I can definitely turn on this little button. Do you guys see that right there? Borders and labels.
Oh.
So I can turn that in. I can see 2nd Street. I can see 4th Street. Here's some nifty things too. Places and photos. So I can zoom out and if I want to know, all right, well, maybe Paul Nance likes to hang out at Smith Park. I don't know. I've never been to Smith Park. Looks nice. We can check it out. And I look at the pictures that are already there and I say, whoa, there's a gazebo. Is that placed correctly? Is it not placed correctly? You do have to worry about error. But you can start getting an idea. If we're going to visit Smith Park, are we going to need water for the expedition because we're going there all day? We can do a path, for example, that tells us how long. And the measurement tools are all up here. It's that little ruler that you see there, right? And so let's do it in miles just for kicks, right? And you can move this around. You can go back and edit your points as well. And you see how the number changes right there? So you know that if you're going around Smith Park and you do the whole loop, that's going to be roughly half a mile. And chances are you won't need a bottle of water or you won't need any special gear if you're going to be walking around Smith Park. However, in our case, with Mrs. Barton, we're going to be doing a bit of a traverse around the Rexburg area to visit some really special geologic sites. In this case, these. I've already mapped these out. Each one of these represents a different geologic layer. Like over here, we have glacial deposits. We've got some hot springs. We've got different areas out here that show wind-blown sands as well as basalt or old lava flows. So this one's kind of fun, right? Let's go to the St. Anthony sand dunes. If Ms. Barton and I are going to go following this red line, I mapped this out. You can do this on your computer. I didn't find these geologic maps just on Google Earth. I went in and found geologic maps online that I then imported into Google Earth. And again, this is reconnaissance. This is going in, trying to understand what I'm going to see before I even put my feet on the ground there. I've never been to Rexburg, but just from looking at the geologic map, which as a geologist, I can look at the colors and the labels to all of these, and even these funny little lines with the teeth on them. And I can already tell you the geologic history, or a lot of the geologic history that I'm seeing, what I should expect to see, because that's a huge part of science. I expect to see this. Is this what I'm going to see? So in the end, and this is just part of it. The geologic map part is a little more advanced, but I did want to show you that. But for your purposes, I would love for you guys to get on Google Earth, and you don't have to send me this, but you can play around, put in place marks. You just go up here. You have all these great tutorials online, and you can see latitude and longitude, where this is in the world. You can mark your house, right, if you want. You can measure the area that your house is on if you want. You can measure the area of the school. There's a whole bunch of different tools you can have. You can also go up to this little clock. Do you guys see that?
Yeah, on the top. Mm-hmm.
Let's say you want to go back in time in Rexburg. So this is what it looks like in May of 2022. But let's go back to the oldest one they have, December of 1985. Ooh, that's not very great resolution. So going back to the what camera were you using, that tells you that this camera that they were using didn't provide good resolution. We don't get good resolution in Rexburg until 1992 is the first time we get really good Google Earth resolution in Rexburg. That's probably the university there. There's something 3D there because I've got 3D buildings on, which I can turn off later. You can toggle that on and off. So look, this building that I'm assuming that's BYU, Idaho, right?
Yep.
If you're familiar with that building was, from the looks of it,
That's the
not around.
Yeah, that's the Taylor building.
The Taylor building was not around in 1992. And here I'm playing with the north arrow again, fixing it there. And I'm going to put it back to a bird's eye view because that's kind of easier to see. So as we move forward in time, 1999, no Taylor building. Oh, there we go. In 2003, the Taylor building pops up. So this is a really, really, really powerful free tool that you can use to explore your community, to explore the past in your community. Let's fast forward. A lot of times, check this out. I've never done this. It's the first time I'm doing this in your area. But in many areas, especially with flat land, I've done this before with other students where I had them go to areas where you have big meander belts like this in rivers. Go to the ruler up here, and it says line, path, polygon. And I'll have them outline a path to kind of mimic the rivers, right? So we're going to save that. That one's probably not going to change very much. I'm going to save that as a random name. And then we'll see if this changes over time. Because there are parts of rivers, especially in the Amazon or other flat-lying areas, that actually change quite a bit. And this stretch didn't change much. But from the looks of it, that stretch of river actually did change quite a bit from the looks of it. See how big it is here? Knowing the date in your field notes is really important because from being native Rexburgian, when do the rivers get bigger? During the summer or during the winter for you guys?
When do the rivers flow? Is Nixon on today? He's the one that lives down by the river. When are the rivers the fullest?
So check this out. The date here is 9. What month is 9?
Joshua, what do you think? What's your thought?
I think it would be the fullest in either the spring or the summer because the temperature is warm enough for all the snow to melt.
And that is an excellent hypothesis because I don't know what the answer is in your area. So let's check it out. So from the most recent picture of the Henry's Fork River, I guess, we've got this one, which is in September of 2021. This part's, it's pretty dry. September looks to be a pretty dry month. September is still a pretty dry month. See, it says 9/2015. Okay, October, there's a little more flow in October. And again, this is a lot of things could have changed. I'm using this as an example just because it was really the one I picked off. Who knows?
Andreas, are you at the mercy of I mean, you can't pick a month. You can't say, we want to see it in May because that's when we think it's going to be,
Wow, look at this. Something big happened in August of 2009. Like, in fact, I was working at a site in Louisiana. Let's see if we can see this. Where was it? It was somewhere around here. I was working at a site in Louisiana, and you know what? Tunica might just work. So let's go back in time to 2000. No, it wasn't here. The point I'm trying to make is if you have a big hurricane, you can see it. You are at the mercy of what imagery is available for your area. So you see up here, this little, again, it's all that little clock that you see there. Do you guys see that okay?
Yeah, the very, very tippy top.
Yeah, it's right up here. And again, there's all these great tutorials online. They're pretty easy to work with, but you can watch things change over time. Whenever you get a big hurricane or something that goes through, you can really see how that impacts rains, how that impacts waters. When you have flooding events as well. Again, Katrina was a big one where they got a lot of really good imagery. Rita in Houston was another one. If you look at the hurricanes just in these areas, a lot of times before and after major earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, you can kind of see similar things. Sadly as well, right now in Ukraine, there's a lot of satellite imagery being poured in just to make sure that people are monitoring everything. Because again, it's an incredibly powerful tool. And this can give you an idea of if we're in this part of Rexburg, Harvard Avenue and 2nd Street, if we wanted to look at that city block and see how that's changed from 1985, well, okay, the imagery is not precise enough. So if you were monitoring this in the past, you'd say, well, that didn't work out. But then suddenly, okay, that city block in 1992 looked like this. Sometimes people will count houses to see if there was a fire that destroyed houses, if people left, and if there was reforestation, and if there was deforestation. These are really powerful tools to be able to show you how landscape changes over time. You are at the mercy of what is available here, right? But it's still a really, really powerful tool. That doesn't change. And also going back to our geologic mapping, because I want to get to questions from you guys, I want to do two more things if that's okay. So let's say, Ms. Barton and I want to go out and grab some samples. We see from these markers that I put in that there's a geologically, right? There's a basalt flow, so an old lava flow here, and there's a rhyolite, so another type of volcanic rock there. And again, I got these, and this is more advanced, you do not have to know this, but I got these from the geology where they mapped out the rock types on the surface. And again, those patterns tell us something. But is that real? Well, I can see the sand dunes pretty easily. Okay, windblown sand, okay, that looks like windblown sand from these images. And if I go to places and photos, Sand Hills Resort. That I can't really see much from there. But if I go to this picture, I don't know what's gonna, that definitely looks like some good sands. If I wanted to grab a sample of that, and I just go click, oh, this is perfect. Look at this. So I've never seen this before, but just from doing this recon work, knowing that I want to grab a geologic sample, 2 geologic samples of that windblown sand and also that basaltic lava flow, I can see from this person's picture, that is the basalt that I'm looking for. That's the kind of rock that I'm looking for. That's the kind of sand that I'm looking for. And before even stepping foot, before talking to anybody, before doing anything, wow, I'm seeing Miss Wheeler's cat as well. Like, I feel left out. I need to get a cat. But before doing anything, I've already seen what's there. And that is an unbelievably powerful tool. So I want to take you guys to the Amazon super quickly just to show you some of the ways that we use this satellite imagery in the past. So here's our area, the Boiling River area around here. And I'm going to do something. I'm going to turn off all borders, all roads, anything that you might be able to see so that you can just see green. Sadly, all of this yellowish, brownish stuff is not healthy jungle. The darker the green, the healthier the jungle it is. And part of the reason I'm showing you this right now, all those clouds, is because Miss Barton, as she mentioned, you're at the mercy of what's available. And in the Amazon especially, parts of the world are regularly covered by cloud layers. So the Amazon is an extra tricky part of the world to get some good data from, just because there's always clouds. And anyway, so you'll see a little bit of this, but let's zoom out a little bit and let's look at the most recent stuff. Ooh, so this is a pretty nasty scar on the land right here. All of this stuff is deforestation. The dark green is healthy forest, or at least less impacted forest. These lines are roads, either main roads or people coming and putting other stuff. Let's start going back in time. So that's from 2020, right? Let's go back to 2004.
Whoa,
Let's
look
go back
at
further.
even 2004. This part that was tan up there is now is green. Oh my goodness.
So 1984, that's before I was born. So this is before I was born. And so let's see if they got it from, that is still before I was born, Okay, that's close enough. So from the time of when I was born, this is what the jungle area in my area looked like. There were a couple of main roads, but miles and miles of vast stretches of jungle. And my birthday is coming up in a couple weeks. This is what it looks like today. Not even today. That's in 2020.
Uh-huh.
So you can see that just in my lifetime, massive swaths of jungle have disappeared. And that, sadly, you can use that to monitor the way that the forest changes. Interestingly enough, it seems in many places that because forests suck up a lot of water, right? It also changes the way the rivers work. And Yellowstone was actually one of the places that we saw this firsthand, the concept of trophic cascades. So we're going to go back up to Yellowstone. And this is the final point that I want to share with you guys before we move into questions. Because again, what I want you to do most of all is get onto Google Earth, explore the maps. It's super easy to use. And where are the prairies? Again, I've never physically been to Yellowstone. However, there are maps of the Yellowstone area. This one's from 1915 that I was checking out the other day when they had a railroad that regularly went from close to your school all the way to the Yellowstone entrance. Do they still have that railroad?
No, but you can walk the railroad track. The rails are gone, and it's a great mountain biking area.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. So let's look at this area. So a lot of times too, there's little tricks that you can learn from just seeing rivers. The more a river sort of meanders like this, see those squigglies in the river? that when you see a river doing that, that generally means that the river is slowing down. That generally means that it's a flatter area. It's not that straight surge that's cutting across. So let's check just for kicks. And I've never seen this area before. I've never done this in this area before. And again, we're just exploring here. So this was taken right now, literally May of 2022 is what it says. That was
Wow.
it changed. So let's see if these squiggles change or if the tree lines change. You can see a slight shift in, oh, that's interesting. So there's a feature here in the landscape. Sometimes it's easier to just go all the way back in time. Not good resolution there. So there we go. Here's some useful resolution. So for example, in some of the classes that I've had, I would have students look at sections of a river, and then over time, right? Oops, sorry, messed that one up. Over time, quite literally go here, map the river out, and then say, okay, in year one, the river, this is just an example, right? Follow all the meanders. The river followed this path. In year two, it followed this path, so on and so forth. And by the end of it, you can actually lay a couple of things on top of each other that end up being pretty powerful.
Cool.
So let's see if I can. Is it? Oh, nope. You know what? Don't worry about that. I'm going to take questions just to go into it. But again, there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with this, from monitoring forests to mapping out your local area. It does not matter what you are interested in. If one day you want to get into real estate, well, Google Earth is a super important tool to map out your areas. It's cheap, it's easy to use. If you are doing, for example, tourism, you can do routes, you can do all sorts of things like that. If you're doing science, you can map things out. If you're doing work on planet Earth, mapping is important. And exploring where you're going to go is important too. So yeah, that's basically in a nutshell. And any questions?
Josh McKay?
Oh, sorry. So I'm kind of an element nerd. So I was wondering, at these like points on your screen,
Mm-hmm.
things that are similar to atomic names, but I don't think any of them are actually elements.
No, you are. So two things. So if you are a quote unquote element nerd, then this might be of major interest to you. So a lot of times, in fact, I was just listening to a talk from a professor who was looking for rare earth elements for mining purposes. A lot of times the elements that you might be looking for are going to be locked away in geology. So these names here represent the ages that you're going to be looking at. So this is a Mississippian age rock, right? So if you're so if it's basically looking at the ages of the rock that's popping up in all of these areas. And again, we can, you know what, I'm going to do something real quick here, and I'm going to go geologic map of Idaho, and we're going to open up the geologic map of Idaho. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
So we're going to open that up. That's probably not the best one to use, but works. So all of these are rocks from the absolute oldest to the absolute youngest. And here's a map of the state. And just by looking at the colors, you can see what is older, what is younger. Now, we're going to go into this in more depth in the field, but let's kind of make it fun, and let's say we're looking for mammoths. The mammoths, to keep it pretty simple, let's say we're looking for things that the quaternary right here. you're going to find mammoth bones in these 3 colors up here. So for example, I'm going to be wasting my time in any of these colors down here. I just want to be focused on these 3 colors up there. Does that make sense? Like, you're not going to find a fish in a desert with no water. You're going to find a fish in water somewhere, right? A live fish that's moving around. It's kind of the same thing here. If you're looking for a specific type of element, and again, these names relate to, the type of the age that these rocks are. And again, I'll pull up the geologic map here because this is a section of it. And yep. And that's basically what you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Grattan has a
You're
question.
looking for relationships.
Thank you.
Relationships.
Thank you, Andreas. Grattan also has a question, and then so does Oliver.
Okay, so this one isn't as on topic as the last one, but I noticed on Google Maps that in your folders you have a Pokemon folder.
Yes.
Why do you have a Pokemon folder? What's in it?
So that is a great question. So one of the ways that I have taught mapping is actually Pokemon.
Okay.
So when you're one of the best ways I think for people to start understanding maps is video games. So if you look, how many of you, I'm hoping most of you, but how many of you have played video games before? How many of you have played video games that require a map? Where you're moving around in the world, and up in one of the corners you see a little dot and you're moving around. Well, what I have found is people who play video games that need maps are generally much, much, much quicker at learning how to map. People who tend to play video games of that nature, I've also found, tend to be really, really useful in the realm of exploration as well. Because, for example, the Pokemon thing, we'll go, why not? Let's go into Pokemon. So again, this is a legitimate lesson, not exaggerating. So different areas, right? I literally had these as, oh man, there we go. Here we go. Here's a Magikarp, right? So there's something called orienteering. When you need someone, it's one thing to go out on, Pokemon Go and go look for your Pokemon. It's another thing to have someone hide the actual Pokemon, kind of like geocaching, if you've ever done that. And then if you're geocaching and someone's made it really hard for you, it's really not that different from field looking, because you go in, you write down, okay, I'm looking for Magikarp. Background, assuming the game master did it well. You're not going to find a Magikarp in the middle of a field. You're going to find it near water. If you're if there's clues involved, you move forward. Which way's north? If you have instructions that are, 1,000 paces north, 100 paces east, you can suddenly use anything as a really, really useful educational tool. So, Oliver, I hope that answers your question.
That was Grattan. Yeah.
Okay, Penguin.
Hey, I had a thought. Maybe Andreas, if you don't mind, I'm going to give an assignment challenge, and then anyone who wants to stay and still ask questions can, but we're a little over time. So,
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Let's just do this. Andreas, how does this sound? I'm just jotting down notes while you were talking, so many notes. But for this assignment with Google Earth, what if we ask the students to get into Google Earth and pick one of 3 ideas? One would be, I'm going to give you coordinates to one of the places we're going to be in Yellowstone. So given what Andreas has taught you about tools here, go explore Yellowstone through Google Earth and write or draw or whatever you want what you think you're going to see. Do a reconnaissance of the area. And what do you think we're going to see in that specific area in Yellowstone when we go? So, but that could be one. Another one could be go into your own neighborhood and use that time tool and look at it over time. Or a third one could be pick any place in the world and use the time tool. So maybe the idea is to use the time tool to get one tool under your belt, or go to Yellowstone, and you could use the time tool in Yellowstone, but and do a recon of what you think we're going to see when we get there. So that'll be your assignment.
Absolutely.
I'm going to type it up in a little more clear detail and put it on exploreimpact.org. And we're going to let anybody who needs to run because they got other stuff going on tonight, they can do a big wave and turn off their computers. And then I'm going to turn the time over to Oliver and let him ask his question. Does that sound okay, Andreas?
Yeah, can I have one quick comment on what you mentioned though?
Yes.
As far as Yellowstone, this is an actual example of a study that we're in the process of doing at Yellowstone. The different colors represent different samples that we want to take at areas exactly, in this case, I think 10 meters apart. This is the boiling river of Yellowstone. Here's the Gardner River. And you can organize, it's a really powerful tool to organize your study area, which looks like this. You can add polygons, where the site is, the path of the river, the samples that you want to grab. There's a lot you can do with this, lots of great online tutorials. Have fun with it.
Oh, that's so fabulous. Okay. All right. So anybody who needs to say goodbye can, and Oliver's going to ask a question. Thank you. Go ahead, Oliver.
Okay, so a couple of days ago, after our last Zoom meeting, I was curious, so I searched up your name, and it came up with a Lego set, and it said National Geographic teams up with Andreas Ruzo to, and then there was a long paragraph. But is that true?
Yeah, I helped out with Lego City Jungle and Lego City Volcano. In fact, they were so fun. In fact, one of my favorite lessons that I've ever done educationally, it was really more for photography, but the concept was build your own lesson. And the idea is we taught a series of geology lessons. Everyone had to build their own Lego. Here's an Aztec warrior Lego that I've got on hand. And the idea was I taught the class how to take some basic photography using Lego pieces. And but that was Lego City Volcano and Lego City Jungle. Both of those were a lot of fun to work on. Some of my favorite projects ever. Lego's a great company to work with. I really like them a lot.
That's awesome. That's cool. Let's see. Wyatt, did you have a question? Mr. Bagel? Wyatt, we can't hear you if you're talking, huh? Is your microphone?
Or is he eating bagels? I don't think he's talking.
Wyatt, did you have a question, bud? Okay, maybe that's it for the night. Anybody else? We're good? Capri, did you have a question or are you just waving? Go ahead.
Bradley has a...
Bradley.
Sorry.
Go for it, yeah.
No, Capri, did you have a question? Sorry.
Can you unmute your microphone and share it?
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question was, how did you incorporate maps in the Boiling River project?
Great question. We can literally not do anything without maps. If you're doing anything on planet Earth, you need maps. You need maps for planning out the expedition. You need maps for understanding your place on planet Earth. So you guys have all worked with, I said, well, you know what, let's do this. So here's some of the examples. So for the Boiling River project, there's a couple of things. So you can do we have an agreement with Google, so they get us really good information for this area. All of these dots are actually samples collected. There is the geology of the area, which there's a couple of layers here that tell me all about the geology on a larger scale, on a smaller scale. And again, what to expect where. Temperature studies, there's again, traverses that we've done, and this is like, there's just a lot of information here, lots of points. Let's see, what other things can I show you? There's one that I really wanted to show you that had to do with.
While you're looking, can I ask a question about this? When
Yeah.
you are, I see a lot of information linked to these data points. When you're in the field and you do not have internet, like when we are in Yellowstone, we will not have internet. Do you upload this information later, or how do you connect like those pictures or those data points and those samples to locations when you don't have Wi-Fi at the moment?
So that's one of the beautiful things about Google Earth. So I'm going to take this base map off. One of my favorite things about Google Earth is the way that it saves and caches, basically. From my understanding, if you zoom all the way out, right, to get planet Earth, every single time you move this, it splits up the Earth into 4 quadrants. And when you zoom in, it, again, keeps splitting your screen up into 4 quadrants, and it keeps saving that quadrant that you're working on. As you zoom in, that quadrant gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like it breaks your screen up into 4, and then once you zoom into that, it basically is limiting it's saving what you are seeing on the screen to the resolution that you are seeing it at. So one of the things that a lot of people will do in my area, for example, zoom in almost all the way on the Boiling River area in this case, or in the Yellowstone area, and then keep it on my computer and just like literally keep it there. And it will be saved and I'll be able to access that. And that way, even when I'm offline, I can still add a point and say, all right, point X. Another thing that we've done in the past, so let's see, where did I put the drone stuff? So this is part of a greater drone survey that we did where we overlaid our drone data onto the Boiling River area. You can see changes here in the time of day, slight changes in the river, definitely far better resolution that you have in this part of the Boiling River. But another thing that we've done is printed out large sheets of this so that we can have that to map as well. Because obviously, pretend what's going to go wrong, lay it all out. Maybe you lose internet. Maybe you lose power, right? Mm-hmm. Suddenly, if you don't have power, you're in trouble. So let me show you something that we did with Boiling River sections. This is what I want to show you. Okay, so here's the Boiling River and some other important points along the river. And you'll notice these really weird white blocks. These are sections. Because let's say I can't put everything you're seeing into a book. In order to do that properly, I need to take the section that I'm in, and I can manipulate this, right? I can go here and say, I want this to not be filled in, only outlined. And if I'm working in this section, and then I'll literally just zoom in or take a screenshot, put it into a PowerPoint, save it as a PDF, and then have that available whenever I'm out actually in the field. That way you always have something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay, Bradley, did you have a question? I'm sorry, we need to get... Bradley, did you still have a question? And then Amelia?
Yes, I did. So I was just wondering, Andres, what got you into exploration and National Geographic in the first place?
That's a great question. Yeah, well, I honestly really always loved being outside. I always loved animals. I always loved nature. I honestly loved science. I really struggled with math, in all honesty. And sadly, a lot of my science classes were definitely not taught like this. They were basically just math. So I actually hated science in school until I got to college, when I started liking science because they taught it like it should be taught and not just like, and again, nothing wrong with math at all. Math is super important and it's great to understand our world, but everyone has things they like and they don't like. And what I liked was, the exploration side, the mapping side, the asking questions and trying to put 2 and 2 together. Because I don't really see much of a difference between art and science personally. Leonardo da Vinci was one of the greatest artists who ever lived. He was also one of the greatest scientists that ever lived. It's all about powers of observation. And it's all about seeing things in new ways. And especially now, the cutting edge of science is where two fields overlap. Even today, we mentioned video games and mapping, video games and education. I know for a fact when I was growing up, if anyone ever would have mentioned that you can learn a lot from video games, they'd be like, what? Crucify them, sort of thing. But that's changed. Or even the concept of, get this, even what you guys are doing here is frankly pretty revolutionary. I mean, not everyone thinks that it's good to have students go out into the field. A lot of people think that students can't do it, that it's too dangerous, that they won't learn anything, that they'll waste their time. Personally, I think that could not be more wrong, and that's just laziness on the part of certain adults. But that's a whole other can of worms. So, again,
how did you get connected with National Geographic and getting into the field?
Yeah, so in 2010, I got my first grant from National Geographic. And part of that was to do a heat flow map, so look at geothermal energy in Peru. And one thing led to another, and I was already in science by that point. And that's how I started. So there's grants available. In fact, I think the youngest person to ever get a grant from Nat Geo was 11 or 12.
Wow.
And he did a really cool project in Texas, looking at it's called the Devil's River fish or something like that. Again, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing this. It's not necessarily it's not a full-time job for most people, but it's definitely something that's a lot of fun. And it's something that you can use, techniques that you can use in everything. And that's the important thing.
Thank you. Let's have Amelia ask her question.
So I just want to get a little more organized. So I'm not sure about the notes we have to write. So we're writing the notes and then turning them in at the office. And after that, we're going on the trip.
Correct.
Or are we taking the field journals to the trip?
Both. So you'll take them to the office. Good questions. After we do all of our expedition workshops, and you'll record what you're doing in your journal, then you'll take it to the office, and I will go through them, and everyone who participates is just so ready because they've done the reconnaissance to be an explorer in Yellowstone. And then I will bring the journals, and so the day you get on the bus, we'll give them back to you because you definitely will want them in Yellowstone. And you're going to want them for the day after Yellowstone back in the classroom when we're at Madison Middle School on June 9th. So they're going to be a treasure to you when we're done. They'll have so much information and so much of your journey. So thanks for asking.
Okay, so wait, but the trip is going to be on June 8th.
Right. June
Okay,
8th.
thank you.
Yes.
That's all.
That's great. Okay. Oliver, was it a question similar to that or different? And then Capri?
Do we need to be taking notes from these meetings?
Well, I'm recording it, so I'm noticing that there's some things that I want to go back and review, and I'm posting the video to exploreyouриmpact.org. So you're welcome to go back and look at that. And on exploreyourimpact.org, next to the video, I will type out the assignment, and so that's helpful as well. So if you want to go back and revisit something you don't remember, great. If you want to take notes while Andreas or any of the other presenters are speaking, then you can do that as well. All right?
And sometimes, here's another example. This is from a documentary thing. This is like Nat Geo documentaries one. We were working in an area with a lot of crocodiles, for example. This is all in Spanish, but sometimes it's really good. Taking a safety course, definitely in this case, I was taking the safety course and writing down, okay, if I get if a crocodile grabs my arm, I need to yell and poke it in the eye with the other arm. If it starts to spin, hug its head so that I spin with it as well. So again, hopefully that never happens, but just in case, I'm not dependent on electricity going out or something like that, because I've got it all in one place.
And some
And
of
that
you may have.
concept-
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's the concept of having everything in one place.
Yeah.
There's an organizational part of that is super useful. Especially, you don't have to go back and forth. You don't have to, like, the highlights. It's really useful to put the things that stand out to you, the things that you think you might need. And that's what Recon is all about. Am I going to need this later on? Yes, no, maybe. If it's a yes, you should probably take a note of it, because that way, if you see something that you're not sure, if you're in Yellowstone, you're like, oh man, there's here, paw prints. Here's a great one. If you're in Yellowstone and you're looking around at paw prints, and let's say you want to know, is it a wolf, is it a coyote, or is it a fox, right? I can just open that book and, oh, of course, I look at the size, I look at the distribution of the toe pads, right? And suddenly, oh, in no time, I can tell that's a gray wolf, that's a coyote, that's a fox. Instead of having to like pull this out and, do my thing or find it. And if you have no connection, you might be in big trouble.
One of the notes I took tonight was must pack plastic bags.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, Capri, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Okay, so my one question is, do you need Google Earth Pro to go back in time? Because you can see on like your browser that you're using Google Earth Pro.
Yeah, Google Earth Pro is totally free. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you just if you literally Google Earth Pro, there's a free download. And it's an incredibly powerful tool. So Google Earth Pro is the one that's going to have, the gray and white logo instead of the blue and white. And that's up here. You'll see in fact, you even have time of day. So right now, this is what it's looking like in Rexburg, right? We can, you can see where the sun's setting, the sun's rising, all that stuff.
Awesome.
Actually, let's look for where the sun rises. So if that's the middle school, and there's the terrain, and just for kicks, we're going to go here and go preferences and say we're going to exaggerate the terrain 3 times taller than it actually is. So there you see the nice mountains that you have right in your backyard.
Tetons.
Ooh, and that looks like the moon. So let's see what happens. Oh, that's the stars field that you're going to get. So let's say, Capri, that you became the world's leading Milky Way photographer. And you wanted to see how the Milky Way passed over Rexburg, or better yet, and this is an actual project that we are kind of doing at a spot in Peru. You can actually go in and look at the night sky. But let's say you want to take a perfect picture. Okay, that's a little too exaggerated, so we're going to go back to go to preferences. 1 is no exaggeration, so we'll change it to 1. And now it doesn't look as tall. But let's say, oh man, it really doesn't look as tall. Okay, why not? Those are some nice peaks right in there. So let's say you want to grab a picture of the Milky Way perfectly aligned to these mountains. You can go into Google Earth, you can look at the time of day, you can align it just like you want it and say, okay, I have to go up there at exactly 5:03 a.m. on May the 4th, 2022 to snap that picture. It actually allows you to project into the future, to go into the past, so that if you really wanted to say, you know what, maybe my picture might be cooler if I was, looking the other way and I aligned the mountains so that the Milky Way was, right in the middle of these two. You can do that. It's an incredibly powerful tool. And let's say, there we go. So let's see if the Milky Way ever aligns. Oh, it does. 1:41 a.m. is when you have to be to get the Milky Way aligning there. Now let's say Isaac Ricks decides. I'm pretending these are your names because they're on the things, unless Crichton changed his name to Penguin. But let's say Isaac just got really tired of Earth and doesn't want to deal with planet Earth anymore. but really wants to go to the moon. Google Earth Pro also allows you to go to the moon.
Oh, wow.
And you can check the moon out. If you want to, like, okay, there is what went on here. Oh, one of my things is on. See, I've got a path going on. I do not need that. Oops, accidentally had that turned on. So you can go in there and see what happened here. Ooh, the Apennine Mountain Range. One of my friends who works for NASA recently said that they think that they found a volcano, an active volcano on the moon, or at least an active magma body somewhere up here. So you've got all this, you can see the craters, you can see all that. But let's say that, Isaac's very happy on the moon, but Anna G, mysterious Anna G, who doesn't show their face, is all about Mars.
Go, Anna.
And then Dragon Master 3000 with the grizzly bears is joining too, because they want to see if there's dragons on Mars, right? So if you're going to be looking for dragons on Mars, a good place to look, and you can see all these pictures. Each picture is a group where like a satellite went in. Does anybody know the tallest volcano in our solar system, or at least the biggest one that we know about, at least?
Is it on Mars?
Mm-hmm. Olympus Mons. So let's say you've never been to Mars before, and you don't know where it is, and you're seeing all of these things. Well, we should be able to find it pretty quickly because it's, pretty massive. Sorrow in Serenium. That sounds awful. Let's see. Where is Olympus Mons? Is this Olympus Mons? I don't know why this thing is still
Giving you your
So
path.
you can just go in. Olympus
Cool.
Mons. There we go. So this is going to take us straight to Olympus Mons. And there we go. We are now this absolutely massive, oh, yep, there it is. Huge volcano. It's like the size of the state of Texas, something crazy. We can actually measure the size. So if we want to go square miles, let's just say it's almost 400 miles straight across, right? Roughly 200 mile radius. This is an absolute monster. And let's say that we know it's 190 miles in radius, and we want to compare that to what if suddenly Yellowstone turns into Olympus Mons? So Jackson, what would you do? Knowing how to use the Google Earth Pro circle tool, what would you do? Let's turn the labels back on. So let's go to Lake, and let's say if Olympus Mons was right at Yellowstone, the volcano that goes from roughly, close enough, from roughly almost at Cary,
yeah, almost goes to Sun Valley.
From basically Sun Valley.
Whoa, way up into Montana, Wyoming, probably.
That would be Olympus Mons.
Wow.
Pretty spectacular. And that's just like the surface part from what we measured. It's probably bigger. And if you wanted to, in fact, actually, I might have this. So remember, one of the first times, I think this is fun. If you guys don't, well, you guys can go do your thing. It doesn't matter. We think it's fun. But so one of my favorite things about where you live is you live inside one of the old craters. So there's a tool that allows you to overlay an image. So let's go desktop. Let's go, nope. Zombie mantis, nope. I am only finding the zombie mantis thing, and that is not what I need to find. Okay, well, I don't have it here. I thought I had it. Oh, Yellowstone Caldera. There it is. Okay, it's in the wrong format. Doesn't matter. Let's check this out. So if I were to put this in the right format, I would be able to look at, see those rings? This is a very busy graph. Dragon Master, I can tell how you doing? So there's Island Park right there, but if you look at these squiggly lines, it shows where the old craters used to be. So again, there's a lot to map out, a lot to check out.
Island Park is a caldera now. I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, Andreas, thank you very much. Everybody who stayed till the bitter end, thank you. Give yourself a hand. It wasn't bitter though. It was sweet. The sweet end. Andreas, you're awesome. We can't wait to spend more time with you. Yeah, all of us. And I will put all this up on exploreimpact.org first thing in the morning. All right? We'll see you, team.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.